In today's video, we have the 5 habits of highly efficient learners. So first, I'm going to break down for you what are the 5 different types of efficiency when it comes to language learning. And then I'm going to tell you what are the habits of the highly efficient learners. How many hours do they spend per week learning? What do they do? What is the roadmap to help you to get you from your plateau, where you're stuck, where you feel like you're not progressing fast, to feeling like you're progressing, you have breakthroughs, you have fun moments, you're hitting milestones, you're hitting goals, and you start to get into that more motivational, interesting phase of the language, and you don't feel like you're just progressing like a snail or like a slug, just going so slow, and you feel really demotivated. So first, I'm going to tell you the different types of language learners when it comes to efficiency, okay? So the first one is inefficient. This type of learner probably learns for less than an hour per week. The next one is just enough. This type of learner learns between 1 to 2 hours per week. The next one is good. This type of learner learns maybe between 2 to 3 hours per week. They have a plan, they are fairly consistent, and they are able to track their progress. The next one is the optimal learner. This learner spends between 4 to 7 hours per week practicing their language ability and developing themselves as a language learner, using a variety of methods, using different ways to help them progress. And 5 is the highly efficient language learner, which I want to focus on today in this video. What are the habits? What are the things that the highly efficient language learners do that help them to progress so quickly and make them seem like they learn things so seamlessly and so fast, and their vocabulary level just seems to shoot right up, their confidence seems to shoot right up, and you just watch some of their videos and you're like, wow, how did you do that? So I want to focus on these highly efficient learners, figure out what are some of their tricks, what are some of their hacks of how they became efficient learners? What did they do? Okay, so with a highly efficient learner, they maximize their effort, so they don't waste any time. So what I mean by that is sometimes when we go to learn a language, we're not really in the headspace to do it, and we end up wasting a lot of time. So it depends which stage you're at in the language learning progress, because remember, when you're a beginner or when you're an intermediate or when you're an advanced learner, the methods change over time. So when you're a beginner, you're going to focus more on reading, you're going to focus more on developing your vocabulary, you're going to focus more on input, okay? Because you need to be generating as much vocabulary as you can before you can start giving output and producing output in the language. The intermediate phase is where a lot of people normally get stuck because they still focus on so much input and they're not optimizing the amount of output that they're focusing on. So this then becomes a little tricky because you're relying on the methods that you used in the beginner phase to try and help you through in the intermediate phase. But no, this is where you need to mix things up. This is where you need to add different layers of complexity to your exercises. This is where you need to feel some more stress. You need to push yourself. You need to do things that make you feel uncomfortable. You need to really stress your listening skills. You need to push your speaking skills so that you can generate more output, so you can finally feel comfortable when you're speaking with your manager, when you're speaking with your clients, or you're just socializing in English because you want to have a comfortable life if you've moved abroad or if you've immigrated to another country, okay? So the highly efficient learners, they make language learning a routine, a daily routine. It's not something they do just once a week where, like I said, the inefficient learners, the learners that are just learning enough, they're spending maybe 1 to 2 hours per week. Maybe this is okay when you're first starting out, you know, people who go through the Duolingo phase and you're learning, just trying to accumulate some vocabulary. Okay, sure, maybe you can spend maybe 1 or 2 hours, but it's highly inefficient. And if you actually look at the amount of hours that it takes to learn a language, let's say, for example, you're Spanish and you're learning English, the average time that takes for you to reach a C1 level is 1,095 hours, okay? So if you learn 7 hours per week, you'll reach that level in 3 years. This is just a an estimate, okay? Of course, it's not the same for everybody. It depends how efficient you are with those hours. What are you doing? How are you progressing? And are you wasting your time when you're focusing on your language learning practice? So if you learn for half of that, so 3.5 hours, it's going to take you 6 years to reach that fluency in your target language, in English. So again, guys, this is just an estimate, but it goes to show that the more volume and the more time that you spend in the language, especially when you're focusing on output, on speaking, on developing those speaking patterns, that logic, the way you organize your sentences and your thoughts, this is what's really going to pay dividends and help you in the long run to become a better speaker, because this is what you're trying to achieve in the language. Okay, so they do daily practice. Yeah, whatever that is, a highly efficient learner will have a plan, will have a roadmap of what they want to focus on. They normally will organize their time into blocks. So they will say, okay, for 40 minutes, for 50 minutes, for 60 minutes, I'm going to focus on this one video. Okay, for the next block, I'm going to focus on summarizing information out loud and speaking. For the next block, they're going to spend 30 minutes talking about their day out loud. And then for another block, maybe this is another day, they know they're speaking to a teacher for 1 hour, okay? And then maybe another day during the week, they're speaking to a teacher again for say 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So they're just really getting into the habit of generating a lot of output. And of course, input is important as well, but you're going to get this through videos. And again, you will assign a different learning block for your reading, for your vocabulary practice, for your spaced repetition reading, and for generating articles and reading with your vocabulary list. Like I've mentioned in videos before about how you can use AI to generate summaries and articles to help you use that vocabulary that you've learned so that you can start to remember it. Because it's really annoying when you go to say a word and it just doesn't come to you. So for example, this happens to me in Spanish all of the time. The other day I learned the word update. Okay, let's see if I can remember it. Update is actualización. I can remember it because I've seen it many times. But the other word I learned was reward. So if I want to reward myself, mi recompensa, una recompensa. So I can remember it because I put it into my practice. I put it into my vocabulary list, and I used summaries and generated stories so that I can see this word again and again. Okay, so this is just one example. So what have we covered so far? The highly efficient learners, they make English learning a daily practice. Second, they use learning blocks of 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes to control the amount of time that they are learning and to make sure that they are not distracted during this time. Okay, so the next thing is they don't just focus on passive learning. Okay, so listening to a podcast and just letting it go, letting it run, or watching a movie and just hoping that this language just comes into your brain, just hoping that this passive listening really is going to work. No, this is not where it's going to work. Passive learning is what is a great technique when you're an advanced learner and you can relax pretty much whilst you're watching that show and have subtitles on or off, whatever. You pretty much know all the vocabulary. You can just passively understand it. But if you're at the intermediate phase and you don't even know like 50% of the vocabulary, you're going to really, really struggle to process that information passively. So focus on the active practice. Focus on your output. Okay, so the next thing is they break big goals into small trackable milestones. So every 3 months, for example, they will reflect and think about what did they achieve, how have they progressed, are there new words that they have learned. So for example, for me, I can say actualización, I can say recompensa. These are 2 words that I couldn't say 3 months ago. So that means my vocabulary is developing. I'm able to retain and learn new words, and I can use them in sentences. Okay, so this is a clear sign that I am developing. And there are other things like understanding certain videos, feeling comfortable when you're putting sentences together. There's just a flow and a speed, when you're speaking, you feel like, wow, I haven't been able to do that before. So this is really important when you're learning a language, because you need to feel good, you need to stay motivated, you need to see, are you hitting the milestones every 3 months? So it's a way to just check in with yourself and keep yourself in line. Because sometimes as a language learner, we waste time, we focus too much on passive learning, we focus too much on input, and we are kind of just progressing away from the highly efficient roadmap, and we are spending too much time just not doing the practice that's going to give us the most bang for our buck. So the most bang for your buck, this is an American expression that they use to say to use the effort and to get a good reward from that effort. We call it get the most bang for your buck. Okay, so it means prioritize, it means focus on the things that you know are going to give you the best return for your time and for your effort. Okay, so the last one is the highly efficient learners, they adjust their learning methods over time. So I remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned that the beginning phase of learning a language is not the same as the intermediate phase, and likewise the intermediate phase is not the same as the advanced phase, and also the advanced phase is not the same as the very advanced phase. These techniques change because your mind hits different plateaus, it needs different input, it requires more output to get, like, from the beginner to the intermediate level, you will typically have a lower output level and a very high input. But for intermediate, that needs to change. You need to go super high output and the input needs to be lower. Same for the advanced, even more output and then lower input. But then at the advanced, you kind of need a bit more of a balance because your output's pretty good. You're just fine tuning it and your input level just gets harder and harder as you go on. Okay, so the language doesn't necessarily you get more comfortable, but then it depends which environment, which topic you're talking about. So, you know, it's like when you are in the gym and you are lifting weights, you think, oh, if I get stronger, it's gonna get easier. No, when you get stronger, you lift heavier weights. So it's still hard. It's just relative to the amount of strength that you have, okay? So what have we covered in this video? So a highly efficient learner has 5 habits that really help them to develop their language skill and to progress so much faster than an inefficient learner or a language learner that's just doing enough, or someone who's good or someone who's optimal. The highly efficient learner spends more time. First of all, you know, there's just higher volume for this type of language learner. So the first one was they make learning a daily routine. This is something that holds them accountable. They know if they're making progress and they track it. They look back and they reflect and see what did they do each day, how many hours did they spend, and are the methods and exercises they are using useful and that helping them to develop. If they are not, then they need to make a change and change that plan so that they can start developing faster. Okay. The next one is they stay focused in learning blocks. They remove distractions. They make sure that that time is a focused language learning block. This is why learning with a teacher is really cool and useful, because you know, okay, I'm focused in this moment. I'm only focused on listening to what this conversation is and how I can respond, how I can process and then give output in this language. Okay. The next one is they don't learn passively. They learn actively and they focus on putting pressure on their mind, on their muscles in their mouth to start producing this language. Because remember, the ultimate goal is conversation, is to be able to talk, is to be able to discuss, is to connect with this language, okay? The next one is they break big goals into small, manageable chunks. So this stops them from getting overwhelmed. It helps them to stay motivated. They know that they are getting better. Things like vocabulary check. Are there any words that you've developed recently? Can you speak up more? Have you developed your speed, your rhythm? Is your pronunciation improving? These are all things that you can focus on to help you to become a more efficient language learner, okay? The last one, number 5, is that they adjust their methods as they progress in their language learning. So they don't focus on A1 level reading when they are an intermediate. They focus on something a bit more challenging, a bit harder, but not too hard, which is at the advanced level. You need to focus on what your level is. And this is going to help you to progress in the fastest way, in the quickest way, and you will become a more efficient learner, okay? If you like this video today, guys, you can head to Vallo. That's VALLHO. So Vallo.com is an English coaching platform that has various different communication courses that will help you to overcome your plateau and really help you to fine-tune and hone your English language skills so you can fully start to connect with this language, and that you can follow a roadmap that's gonna actually guide you to becoming a better and a more efficient learner, to meet you where you're at as a learner, and that you can finally start to connect and join a community of other English language learners. Join individual personalized coaching classes or group classes where you can start to develop as a learner, and to find a place where you can actually connect with people and you can connect with the language. I hope you found this video useful today, guys, and I will see you all on the next one. Feel free to drop some comments below about what type of learner you think you are. Do you think you're inefficient? Do you think you're just enough? Do you think you're good? Do you think you're optimal? Or are you already a highly efficient learner and you are already learning at warp speed? If you are, we all want to hear your advice and how you developed as a highly efficient learner. Also, if you're an inefficient learner, we want to hear your struggles. We want to know, why is it a problem for you? Maybe it's managing work. Maybe it's finding a way to get motivated. Maybe it's finding a YouTube channel that you can follow and listen to that will help and keep you motivated. We all should be helping each other and giving each other advice so that we can start developing in the best way possible. So I will see you all on the next one. Bye for now.